I started noticing the emails after I took a new job working from home. At first, I assumed they were spam, automated messages, glitches, the kind of thing you delete without thinking. But then I realized something that made my stomach drop. They were being sent from my own email address. The first one arrived at 1:09 a.m. The subject line was blank. The body contained a single sentence. "You left the bedroom light on." I was sitting in my bedroom when I read it. The light was on. I stared at the screen, then slowly looked up at the lamp beside my bed, half expecting it to turn off on its own. It didn't. I laughed it off, nervous and confused, and told myself it was some kind of spoofed email. A prank. Maybe malware. I changed my password immediately. The next night, another email arrived. "You lock the door twice now." That's new. My heart started pounding. I do lock the door twice. Always have. It's a habit I picked up years ago. I don't remember telling anyone about it. I checked the sender information, the IP addresses, the login activity. Nothing unusual. No sign of unauthorized access. The emails were legitimately sent from my account, but not from any device I owned. The third email came while I was in the kitchen making coffee. "You're standing very still." I froze. My hands were gripping the edge of the counter. I hadn't moved in several seconds. Slowly, I turned in a full circle, scanning the apartment. Everything looked normal. The door was locked. The windows were closed. The hallway outside was empty. I packed a bag and stayed with a friend that night. The emails continued anyway. "You sleep on your side when you're scared." "You stopped breathing for 7 seconds last night." "You should get more rest." I stopped opening them. I set up filters, blocked my own address, reported it to my provider. It didn't matter. The emails still came, and I could still feel them, even unread, sitting in my inbox like something alive. Then one morning, I woke up to an email that hadn't been sent during the night. It had been sent 30 seconds ago. "Look behind you." I dropped my phone and spun around. Nothing. I started checking my apartment obsessively. I bought new locks, covered the webcam, put tape over every sensor I could find. I unplugged everything that didn't need to be connected to the internet. Still, the emails kept coming. They started correcting me. "You didn't check the closet. That wasn't the right window. You missed something." I stopped sleeping. Every sound felt deliberate. Every shadow felt wrong. The apartment no longer felt like a place I lived. It felt like a place I was being observed from. One night, I received an email that was longer than the rest. "You keep trying to find me in the wrong places. I'm not hiding. I'm not watching you from outside. I'm already where you are." I felt cold all over. I typed a reply before I could stop myself. "What do you want?" The response came instantly. "To make sure you don't forget me." That night, I dreamed I was sitting at my computer, typing an email. I couldn't see the screen clearly, but I knew what I was writing. When I woke up, my laptop was open. An email draft sat on the screen. The cursor blinked at the end of a sentence I don't remember typing. "I see you too. I don't live in that apartment anymore." I deleted the email account. I changed jobs. I moved cities. But sometimes, when I'm tired, when I zone out staring at my screen, my fingers start typing on their own. And for just a moment, I feel like I'm not alone in my head anymore. I started getting phone calls from my own number about a month ago. The first time it happened, I was brushing my teeth before bed. My phone buzzed on the bathroom counter, and when I glanced at the screen, my stomach dropped. The caller ID showed my name. My number. I assumed it was a glitch, maybe a spam call spoofing my contact info. I let it ring. It stopped after about 10 seconds. No voicemail. The next night, it happened again. Same time, 11:58 p.m. This time, I answered. There was no greeting on the other end. Just silence. Not dead silence, there was a faint background noise, like air moving through a room. "Hello," I said. I heard a soft click, and the call ended. I laughed it off and went to bed, but I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking I heard my phone vibrating even when it wasn't. The third night, The call came earlier. 11:12 p.m. I answered immediately. This time, I could hear breathing. Slow, controlled, close to the microphone. "That's not funny," I said, my voice tighter than I meant it to be. The breathing paused. Then a voice spoke. "Why do you always lock the door before checking the windows?" I felt cold all over. That was my habit. I'd done it for years, without thinking. I never mentioned it to anyone. "Who is this?" I asked. The voice didn't answer. The call ended. I checked my call logs. The call showed as outgoing. From me. I stopped answering after that, but the calls didn't stop. They came every night, slowly getting earlier. Sometimes they rang for minutes. Sometimes they stopped the moment I picked up my phone, like whoever was calling knew. Then the voicemails started. I'd wake up to notifications and find recordings that were just a few seconds long. At first, it was silence. Then faint sounds. Footsteps. A chair creaking. A door opening. Sounds from inside my apartment. One voicemail was longer than the rest. I heard myself breathing. Not recorded through the phone. Breathing the way you do when you're asleep. I didn't recognize when it was recorded, but I knew it was me. I went to my service provider. They couldn't explain it. There was no evidence of call forwarding. No duplicate SIM. No suspicious activity. According to their system, all the calls originated from my device. I stopped bringing my phone into the bedroom. I left it charging in the kitchen at night. The calls still came. One night, I woke up to the sound of my ringtone. Not from the kitchen. From beside my bed. My phone was on the nightstand. I hadn't brought it there. I stared at it as it vibrated, my number glowing on the screen. Slowly, I answered. This time, there was no breathing. Just my voice. Calm. Quiet. Speaking slowly. "You keep missing it," it said. "I only exist when you're not paying attention." "What are you?" I whispered. A pause. Then, "I'm what stays when you hang up." The call ended. I didn't sleep after that. I sat against the wall, watching the phone like it might move on its own. In the morning, I checked my call history again. There was one outgoing call I didn't remember making. Duration, 6 hours. Last night. I moved out a week later. New place. New locks. New routine. I changed my number yesterday. Tonight, at 11:58 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown caller. I answered without thinking. There was a familiar pause. Then my voice spoke softly from the other end. "Why did you think changing numbers would matter?" I started house-sitting for my aunt while she was away for a few months. She lived in a small, isolated town where the streets emptied after sunset and most of the houses looked like they hadn't been updated since the 80s. Her place sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, backed up against a thin line of woods. I'd visited before, but living there alone felt different. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where every sound feels intentional. The first few nights were uneventful. I fell into a routine. Lock the doors, check the windows, turn off the lights, go to bed. Around midnight, the house would settle with soft pops and creaks, nothing unusual. I slept fine. The fifth night is when I heard the knock. It came from the front door. 3 slow taps. Not loud, not urgent. Just deliberate. I checked the time, 2:34 a.m. I didn't answer. I stayed still, listening. After about 10 seconds, I heard footsteps on the porch, slow and heavy, moving away from the door. I peeked through the curtains. The porch was empty. No car, no silhouette, no movement beyond the weak glow of the porch light. The next night, it happened again. Same time. Same 3 knocks. I considered calling the police, but what would I say? Someone knocked and left. I convinced myself it was a prank. Maybe some local kids testing houses late at night. On the 3rd night, the knock came from the back door. I froze in bed, heart pounding. The back door faced the woods. There was no porch there, just a small concrete step and darkness beyond it. The knock was slower this time, heavier. I didn't move. After the knocking stopped, I heard something else. Footsteps. Not retreating. Circling the house. Slow crunches on gravel. Pausing occasionally, like whoever it was stopping to listen. I pulled the covers up to my chin and stayed perfectly still until the sounds faded. The next morning, I found muddy footprints outside every door. Front, back, even beneath the windows. Bare footprints. Large. Too large to be a child's. I called my aunt and told her what happened. She laughed it off, said the town had always been strange, and suggested I stop watching scary videos before bed. The knocks continued. Every night. Always around 2:30 a.m. Sometimes at the front door. Sometimes the back. Once, against the side of the house near the bedroom window. I started sleeping with the lights on. I stacked furniture in front of the doors. Still, the knocking came. Then one night, it changed. Instead of knocking, I heard the doorknob turn. Slowly, carefully, as if whoever was outside didn't want to make noise. I sat up in bed, holding my breath, listening to the soft click of the handle moving back and forth. Then it stopped. A few seconds passed, and then a voice spoke from just outside the door. "I know you're awake." It wasn't loud. It wasn't threatening. It sounded calm, familiar, somehow. I didn't respond. The voice sighed. "I just want to come in." The footsteps retreated. I didn't sleep at all. The next day, I packed a bag and considered leaving, but something stopped me. I felt watched during the day too, like the woods behind the house were paying attention. I kept catching movement between the trees that vanished when I looked directly at it. That night, I sat in the living room with all the lights on, determined to stay awake and face whatever was happening. At 2:31 a.m., the knocking started. Not on the door, on the walls, all around the house. Slow taps, moving, circling, like fingers tracing the perimeter. I stood in the middle of the room, shaking, as the sounds grew closer together. Then everything went silent. The front door creaked open. I stared at it, frozen. I was sure I had locked it. The door opened just a few inches, then stopped. Something breathed from the other side. "Thank you," the voice whispered. The lights went out. When they came back on, the door was closed. Locked. The house was empty. I left the next morning and never went back. A week later, my aunt called me, confused. She asked why I'd unlocked the back door before leaving. I told her I hadn't. She paused, then said, "That's strange. The back door only unlocks from the inside." I still don't sleep well. Sometimes, around 2:30 a.m., I hear a soft knock on my apartment door, on my bedroom wall, on the inside of my head. 3 slow taps, waiting for me to answer. I never believed in rules for places until I moved into that apartment. It was cheap in a way that should have warned me. A 1-bedroom on the edge of town, close enough to hear traffic but far enough that the streets emptied at night. The landlord didn't ask many questions. He slid the lease across the table, avoided eye contact, and said something that stuck with me even then. "Most people don't stay long." I assumed he meant students or short-term renters. I didn't press him. I needed somewhere to live, and the place looked fine during the day. Clean, quiet, normal. The first week passed without incident. The second week, I found the list. It was taped to the inside of the hall closet door, hidden behind my coats. A single sheet of lined paper, yellowed at the edges, written in neat, careful handwriting. I assumed it was left behind by the previous tenant. It was titled simply, "Things to Remember at Night." The list had rules. Not suggestions. Rules. Always lock the bedroom door before midnight. If you hear your name, do not answer. Do not look into the hallway mirror between 2:11 and 2:33 a.m. If the closet door is open, close it immediately and leave the room. If you wake up and cannot move, keep your eyes closed. If something knocks from inside the apartment, pretend you don't hear it. If you break a rule, do not panic. Panic makes it worse. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud and shook my head. It was obviously a prank. Some edgy former tenant trying to creep out the next person. I ripped the paper down, folded it, and tossed it into the kitchen trash. That night, I forgot about it. At 12:07 a.m., I realized I hadn't locked my bedroom door. I was already in bed, lights off, phone charging on the nightstand. I lay there for a moment, debating whether it was worth getting up. The hallway outside my bedroom was dark, the kind of dark that feels thicker than it should. I told myself I was being stupid. I got up and locked the door. At 2:14 a.m., I woke up suddenly, heart racing for no reason I could identify. The apartment was silent. No traffic. No neighbors. Just the hum of the refrigerator somewhere far away. I rolled over and froze. Across the room, reflected faintly in the darkness, was the hallway mirror. I had left my bedroom door open when I went to bed. I stared at the mirror, my mind trying to catch up. I couldn't see much, just a sliver of the hallway, the bathroom door, the edge of the living room. Everything looked normal. Then something moved. Not in my room. In the reflection. A shape passed slowly through the hallway, too tall, too thin, its head tilted at an angle that made my stomach turn. It didn't walk. It glided, like it wasn't quite touching the floor. I squeezed my eyes shut. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Seconds. Minutes. Eventually, I forced myself to move. I rolled out of bed, slammed the door shut, locked it, and slid down against it, shaking. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, the list was back. Taped neatly to my bedroom door. The trash can in the kitchen was empty. I read the rules again, slower this time. My hands were sweating. I noticed something I hadn't before. The handwriting wasn't shaky. It wasn't rushed. It looked practiced. Like someone who had written this list many times. I tried to leave that day. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and stepped into the hallway. As soon as I did, the air felt wrong. Heavy. Pressurized. My ears popped like I was changing altitude. The hallway mirror was covered now. A blanket had been draped over it, pinned carefully at the corners. I hadn't done that. I reached for the front door and stopped. There were scratch marks on the inside of it. Long, shallow grooves, starting near the handle and trailing downward, like something had dragged its fingers while standing very close. I stood there for a long time before unlocking the door. Nothing happened. I left, went to work, tried to act normal. I told myself I'd come back, grab the rest of my things, and break the lease. But when I returned that evening, exhausted and jumpy, the apartment looked wrong. The furniture had shifted. Not much. Just enough that I noticed. The couch angled slightly differently. A chair pulled out from the table. The closet door in the hallway was open. I remembered rule number 4. I crossed the apartment in 3 long strides, slammed the closet door shut, and turned away immediately. Something exhaled behind me. Not a breath from lungs. A slow release of air, like pressure escaping. I didn't look. I walked straight into my bedroom, locked the door, and sat on the bed until my legs stopped shaking. That night, I followed the rules. I locked the door before midnight. I didn't look at the mirror. When I heard faint tapping from the living room wall, 3 soft knocks, spaced evenly, I stared at the floor and pretended I didn't hear it. The knocking continued for hours. At exactly 2:11 a.m., the tapping stopped. At 2:33 a.m., I heard something laugh. It sounded almost like me. The next morning, there was a new rule added to the list. Do not trust the voice. It learns quickly. I stopped inviting people over. I stopped sleeping normally. Every night became a careful performance. Lock. Check. Avoid. Pretend. Some nights were quiet. Others were not. Sometimes I would wake up unable to move, my body heavy and useless, pressure pressing down on my chest. I'd keep my eyes closed, just like the rule said, and listen as something paced slowly around my bed, stopping inches from my face. I could feel it leaning down, smiling. One night, I broke a rule. I heard my name. It came from the kitchen, soft and familiar, spoken in my own voice. Hey, it said. Come here. Before I could stop myself, I whispered, what? The apartment went silent. The pressure hit instantly. My ears rang. The walls creaked like the building was settling, but deeper, louder. The bedroom door rattled violently. Something slammed against it once. Twice. Then fingers began sliding underneath the door, stretching impossibly long, feeling along the floor like blind worms searching for a crack. I screamed. The fingers withdrew. The door went still. In the morning, the list had been rewritten. The rules were longer now, more detailed, more desperate. At the bottom, in darker ink, a sentence had been added. If it starts talking like you, it's already too close. I tried to move out again. This time, I made it to my car. I drove for hours aimlessly until the sun came up. I slept in a parking lot, convinced I'd escaped. When I woke up, the list was sitting on the passenger seat. The paper was damp, like it had been handled by wet hands. That was when I understood. The apartment wasn't the problem. It was the thing that had lured me there. I don't know where it is now. I don't know how far it can follow. I still hear knocks sometimes, from inside my walls, from inside rooms I know are empty. I still lock my bedroom door before midnight. I still don't answer when I hear my name. And every night, I pray I don't wake up and find a new rule added to the list, because I don't know how many more chances it's willing to give me.